Imagine a map of the world, but not the one we know today. Imagine a map where nearly a quarter of the land is shaded in a single dominant color, red. From the frozen coasts of Canada to the bustling ports of Hong Kong. From the sprawling outback of Australia to the diamond mines of South Africa. This was not a fantasy. This was a reality. By 1922, the British Empire was the largest empire in human history. It was a political entity so vast and so unprecedented that it defied simple understanding. It governed over 458 million people, a quarter of the world's population, and spanned a staggering 13.71 million square miles. It was an empire upon which it was boasted the sun never set. But this isn't just a story of conquest and glory. It's a far more complex, darker, and fascinating story of how a rainy island in the North Atlantic came to dominate the globe, and why, despite its overwhelming power, it ultimately almost, but never quite, sealed the deal. This is the story of ambition, innovation, and immense human cost. The foundations: pirates, privateers, and private enterprise. Our story begins not with a king's army, but with a pirate's gamble. In the 16th century, England was a relative backwater. The real powers were Spain and Portugal, who, with the Pope's blessing, had divided the unexplored world between them. England's path to the riches of the New World was blocked by the formidable Spanish Armada and a web of papal decrees. So England chose a different path: state-sanctioned piracy. Queen Elizabeth I issued letters of marque to sea captains like Sir Francis Drake, effectively licensing them to plunder Spanish galleons laden with New World gold. When Drake returned from his circumnavigation in 1580, his ship, the Golden Hinde, was so stuffed with stolen Spanish treasure that it represented a full half of the Crown's annual revenue. This wasn't just theft. It was a strategic masterstroke. It weakened Spain, funded the English treasury, and created a generation of hardened sailors who knew the world's oceans intimately. This established a pattern that would define the empire, leveraging private enterprise for national gain. The most famous example was the East India Company. Founded in 1600, it was granted a royal monopoly on trade with the East. It wasn't a colony, it was a corporation, with the power to wage war, negotiate treaties, and mint its own money. It was, in effect, a sovereign state in the guise of a trading firm, and it would become the sharp end of the spear for British expansion into Asia. Meanwhile, in the Caribbean, the empire found its first true economic engine: sugar. Small islands like Barbados and Jamaica were transformed into vast, brutal plantation systems. To work them, the British initiated and perfected one of the most horrific enterprises in human history: the Atlantic slave trade. Millions of Africans were captured, transported in unimaginable conditions, and sold into bondage. This triangular trade, manufactured goods from England to Africa, enslaved people from Africa to the Americas, sugar and rum from the Americas to England, created immense wealth that would fuel the coming Industrial Revolution. The human cost was astronomical, but it was a cost the architects of the empire were willing to pay for profit and power. The Great Gamble. The jewel in the crown. While the first empire was built on sugar and piracy, the second would be built on something far more valuable: an entire subcontinent. India was not a unified nation but a patchwork of powerful Mughal successor states and independent kingdoms. The East India Company initially came as humble traders, establishing coastal ports like Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. The turning point was the Battle of Plassey in 1757. Robert Clive, an ambitious and ruthless company officer, led a force of just 3,000 men against the 50,000-strong army of the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dawla. Victory was secured not through military superiority alone, but through breathtaking treachery, bribing the Nawab's own commander, Mir Jafar, to hold his forces back from the battle. The prize was unimaginable. The company became the tax collector for the richest province in India. They had conquered a kingdom with a balance sheet. Over the next century, through a relentless policy of subsidiary alliances and outright warfare, the company swallowed India piece by piece. They used Indian soldiers, sepoys, to fight their battles and played rival princes against each other. The company's rule was often brutally extractive, leading to famines and immense suffering. The Indian Rebellion of 1857, which the British called the Sepoy Mutiny, was a bloody explosion of pent-up resentment. It was so traumatic that the British government dissolved the East India Company and assumed direct control, establishing the British Raj. India was now the undisputed jewel in the crown, the central pillar of the entire British imperial project, providing vast wealth, a massive army, and unparalleled global prestige. The imperial century, the tools of domination. The 19th century was Britain's world. The Industrial Revolution provided an unassailable advantage. British factories produced goods cheaper and faster than anywhere else on Earth. But to work, this system needed two things: raw materials from abroad and new markets to sell its finished products. The empire was the perfect solution. This era saw the development of the tools that made near-total colonization possible. The Navy. The Royal Navy enforced a global peace, the Pax Britannica, ensuring sea lanes were safe for British commerce. Its technological lead, from wooden sail to ironclads to the revolutionary HMS Dreadnought, was overwhelming. The telegraph. This was the Victorian Internet. For the first time in history, London could communicate with governors in Cape Town or Delhi in a matter of hours, not months. It was the nervous system of the empire, allowing for unprecedented central control. The railway. British engineers laid tracks across India, Canada, and Africa. Railways moved troops to crush rebellions, transported raw materials to ports, and opened up continental interiors for settlement and exploitation. The Maxim gun, the first truly automatic machine gun. It was the ultimate symbol of the technological imbalance. As the saying went, whatever happens, we have got the Maxim gun, and they have not. It made military conquest of technologically weaker nations a foregone conclusion. This technological confidence bred a new ideology. The idea of the white man's burden, the duty of the white race to civilize and Christianize the backward peoples of the world, became a moral justification for endless expansion. This fervor culminated in the Scramble for Africa, 1881-1914, where European powers carved up an entire continent in a single generation. Britain's ambition was a continuous line of red from Cape Town in South Africa to Cairo in Egypt. They never fully achieved it, but their possessions, Nigeria, Kenya, Rhodesia, Egypt, and South Africa, formed the backbone of their African dominion. The cracks appear, the seeds of destruction. The very things that made the empire so powerful also contained the seeds of its destruction. Its scale made it increasingly expensive and difficult to govern. The two world wars were the catalyst that accelerated its end. World War I bled Britain of its wealth and a generation of its young men. The colonies contributed significantly to the war effort, and in return their people began to ask a powerful question. If we are good enough to fight and die for freedom in Europe, why are we not good enough to have it for ourselves at home? World War II finished the job. Britain was financially bankrupted and morally exhausted by the conflict. The Atlantic Charter, signed by Churchill and Roosevelt in 1941, proclaimed the right of all peoples to choose the form of government under which they live. This rhetoric was impossible to square with holding an empire by force. Nationalist movements, once suppressed, now became unstoppable. Figures like Mahatma Gandhi in India, Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, and Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya mobilized millions with their message of self-determination. Britain, weakened and under pressure from new superpowers like the US and USSR who were anti-colonial, found it could no longer hold on. The end came not with a bang, but in a rapid wave of independence ceremonies. India and Pakistan in 1947 was the death knell. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, dozens of nations across Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean followed suit, raising their own flags. The sun was finally setting on the British Empire. Legacy and conclusion. Why almost? Geography, rivalry, and the indomitable human spirit. Vast regions like Russia, East Asia, and the interior of South America remained beyond their grasp, protected by their own powerful empires or sheer scale, and ultimately, the desire for freedom proved to be a force more powerful than the Maxim gun. The legacy of this near-global conquest is all around us. It's in the borders of modern nations drawn by colonial administrators with a ruler. It's in the global dominance of the English language. It's in the legal and political systems of dozens of countries. It's in the demographic makeup of the modern United Kingdom itself. It is a legacy of both creation and destruction, of railways and universities built, but also of cultures suppressed, economies exploited, and lives irrevocably broken. The British Empire shaped the modern world, for better and for worse, and understanding its complex history is key to understanding the world we live in today, its connections, its conflicts, and its enduring inequalities. The story of the British Empire is the ultimate chilling revelation, a testament to how far ambition and technology can carry a nation, and a sobering lesson in the limits of power. It's a story that deserves to be told in full. If this journey into the heart of the largest empire in history captivated you, then your mission is clear. Like this video if you want us to continue unearthing history's deepest truths. Share it with someone who believes the past is the key to understanding our present. And, most importantly, subscribe to The Lost Books and hit the bell icon. We are your guide to the forgotten chapters and chilling revelations of our world, and our next discovery is waiting for you.